Hey friends, this is your pal Mike Shea from Sly Flourish, here with another episode of Sly Flourish's Lazy DM Prep. In this weekly show, I go through steps from Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master while preparing for my Sunday D&D game. In this case, I am running the Kobold Press hardcover adventure Scarlet Citadel. This show, like all of the work of Sly Flourish, is brought to you by the patrons of Sly Flourish. If you want to get access to the City of Arches sourcebook, a whole bunch of exclusive adventures, access to a dedicated Discord channel, access to the monthly Q&A, and you want to help support the shows like this, you can do so by becoming a patron of Sly Flourish. The link is down in the show notes below. I'm in an interesting spot with Scarlet Citadel. So the characters, we began the session. I remember last week when I was doing my prep, I was worried. They looked like some of the characters were going to run. And I was worried about what that would mean from the pacing of the game. I'm not worried about having the characters run, but I was worried about what that would do for the pacing of the game. And I thought, let me just put a couple of little motivators in there to try to help them not get, try to give them reason to stay. One of them was that the jailer, this really nasty piece of work, is going to hook one of the characters and drag them into the room. And the other one is that the jailer's right-hand man, an ogre, a red-tusked ogre named Scar, is going to come in from the other door. But I'm also going to have an unknown ally show up with some healing potions to kind of give them a boost. And it was like yakety sax. It was like, if you could attribute a single song to the tactics of the characters, it would definitely be yakety sax. They were all over the place. Half the characters were trying to run for the door. Half of the characters were running back in. Then they would switch and the other half would run and the other half would go in the door. And it ended up with them defeating Scar and the jailer. They defeated both of them. They used their healing potions. They used things like Tasha's Hideous Laughter to knock the Scar on the ground and hit him a bunch. But they were very worried about it. And they saw that other people were running. And two of the characters ran completely. They left. And then three of the other characters stuck around and managed to fight the other ones. And they defeated the jailer and they got everybody out. And then they went back to town, to Red Tower. And the old man outside of the town who had told them like, hey, everybody's going to die if you go down there. He's like, hey, how'd it go? He saw that only two of them were returning. And so how did it all go down there? And they're like, F you, old man. He's like, ha, ha, ha. And he wandered away. And then they all met up at the bar and they're all kind of like sitting around the bar, kind of contemplating like, how did this go? And it brought up a couple of interesting situations that I think I need to address in the beginning of the game. I think I'm going to have to start with a, let's pause for a minute. Before we get into the characters, let's pause for a minute and talk about what happened and let's talk about our feelings. And it's because, I don't know if this is the kind of, there's a couple of circumstances. One is, do you want to have a game where half of the characters are willing to leave the other half in harm's way to flee for their lives? Is that what we want to, do we want that to stay? It happened, and that's okay. And I think that's interesting character development. And then the drive can be like, but are you bound together enough as a group to basically say we're not, unless the person's dead, we're not going to leave him behind. Like they were willing to leave one of their characters in the hands of the jailer, a known nasty torturer, and just run. And what does that mean for your friend, right? They were willing to do that. And so I think that there needs to be a question of, are they willing to do that or not? And I think that's something we want to cover as players before we talk about it as characters. So I think that's one thing we're going to start with. The other thing, which is a problem that I need to solve during my prep and running this campaign, is what motivates them to go back? So they just went in there. They managed to get out by the skin of their teeth. They had multiple characters down. They had many characters who were almost dead. And why would they go back? And some of them are like, one of the characters is like, I've got so much money. I got 57 gold. I've never had 57 gold in my life. I don't know why I would ever go back. And they're like, well, you did promise a god that you'd go and rescue them. And they're down in the basement. And she's like, yeah, I guess I'll do that. But there's definitely is that enough of having the general quest? Is that enough of a motivation to put themselves in such dangerous situations? And I think this is kind of an issue with the adventure itself. The adventure really doesn't have very strong hooks for the characters to go down there. It doesn't have strong character hooks for the characters to go down there. So if you go down into these death trap dungeons, and if you have characters who are dying, the logical answer for the characters is we probably shouldn't go back down there again. So how do you want to have a motivation enough for the characters to be willing to go down into this place and kind of have to go down in this place? Maybe not even have to, but what are you offering them that would motivate them to go to a place that's so brutal and where such terrible things have happened. And this is like the first encounter they had down in Scarlet Citadel. The first monster they faced was the jailer, and they almost got killed. And now, and in reading the adventure, there's lots of things like this. There's lots of places where you face insurmountable odds. So how are you going to handle that? And I think one of the answers is better quests, that I want to offer better quests. And I have an idea that I want to think through. And I want to think through it today, because today might be the good day to get those quests in front of them, which is the Kill Bill quest line. The Kill Bill quest line is you have like 4 or 5 villains on a hit list. And you know that these people are twisting and turning the very course of nature themselves. They are damaging the land around it. Something terrible is growing, and they're all responsible. And they all exist down there in Scarlet Citadel. And no one else will do it, but you need to go down there and stop them. And I think that Scarlet Citadel has a number of villains like this. And I think one good motivation, I think, is to just declare them. So the characters know who these villains are, roughly where they are, and that they have to stop them. And so then they have a clearer motivation to go down there. They know, and they have clear progress that they're making. They know that once they defeat certain villains, they will get rewards for it, and that they are progressing the overall quest. So I want to think about that today, because I also don't want to spoil too much in the adventure. I want to make sure that I've got stuff, but I'm in that following my own advice of like lean in on telling too much. I think one way to tell too much would be to be like, here are the villains. And they have a way to discover who these villains are when they go inside, which I think they have enough motivation to go right now. But we're going to start by setting up our new session notes template. Once again, I'm always using, as typically, I'm using Notion to do my campaign planning. If you're wondering, wow, what awesome tool is he using to do this? I'm using Notion, and there's a link to how to use Notion in the show notes below. Today's date is 6 November. Sunday, Scarlet Citadel. We will start by doing a review of the characters. We have Bart. Bart is played by Jay, as a gear-forged bard diplomat. I think I asked some questions about the characters. Let's see if I have. I got what they got at 3rd level, what they picked up. But he's not a noble, but he's definitely like kind of very interested in learning about what's going on. Very kind of happy-go-lucky guy. And as a bard, loves using spells like Tasha's Hideous Laughter and stuff like that. He's a big fan of using the crowd control spells. The player is. We have Dorn. Dorn Greycastle is a spirit from another world who has possessed a body and is a shade. He actually can now sort of shift that body in and out of phase. I think he's got new shade-like powers that he picked up at his most recent level. He hates it when anybody brings up the life of the body that he is inhabiting. And yet Mez, who is in charge of burying the person that he is inhabiting, refers to him often as the name of the body that's inhabiting, which always kind of he finds upsetting. Garble. Garble is the one who was almost left in the torturous hands of the jailer. Garble is a mushroom folk rogue far traveler. He is going down into Scarlet Citadel to try to find a nice lair for his family, his group of folks. We have Mez Roomseleth, a Frost Elf fighter, Parfumier. His job is to try to help people find the path of the dead. And I think there's going to be some interesting stuff, because Charon is going to be one of the major gods that's going to show up, and we're going to see more about Charon the god, Charon the god, in this next session. Sister Malarkey Jones is a tiefling warlock cleric played by Jerry. She is a noble who has been kind of following randomness and kind of been interested in just sort of following her nose and seeing where it leads, and it has led here. And we have Skrink Skibbers. Skrink was a rat folk rogue who became a wizard after being killed by cultists, and then found out that there is an entity known as the Weird Weaver who is being trapped down below in Scarlet Citadel and needs to be rescued. And that is the primary. That is sort of the primary motivation of the characters in this campaign. So there's a few. So those are the characters. Fun group of characters that we have today. So let's see. I had an idea. I don't remember how I was going to use it, but one vehicle for them to kind of refresh and get more information is by visiting their friend, of whose name I forget, Timon. So Timon, the follower of the Weird Weaver, is, what is it called, like when you're in sort of a religious state, communing with the monument of the Weird Weaver beneath the temple of Kors. I believe if we go down to Red Tower, the map of Red Tower, R2 is, I believe, the Temple of Kors. No, R3 is the ruined Temple of Kors. Yeah, right in the center. So there's a ruined Temple of Kors, and I said that underneath the temple, deep down below in the rock, is a chamber that's even older than all of the land around it. And it has a artifact in it, a monument to the Weird Weaver that's been there. It's almost like this weird, it sort of came out of the world, and they can feel ley lines getting sort of like pulled and pushed around this thing. They know that there's ley line magic around this thing. So I think I think that he is communicating. So that could be, if they talk to him, that can be kind of a strong motivator that like things are getting worse in the depths of Scarlet Citadel, and it could twist the world around, and it could twist the entire crossroads. That's more of a secret, so I think we'll cut that and we'll throw that in the secrets and clues. So that is, sort of one way to sort of reinvigorate their drive. But I think we need to have a pause for a minute. And this is sort of out of character, the idea that a handful of characters were willing to flee from the battle with, what's his name? The jailer, is cool. But we probably want to steer that back towards strengthening the group cohesion and loyalty to one another. As a group, do they want to choose the option that no one is left behind alive, or flee and save yourselves if desperation demands it? So, I mean, they could make that choice, but I feel like, it wasn't, I think it was Garble who was left behind, and Garble never said, just leave me, I'll be fine, I'm a mushroom, right? He was like, hey, where are you guys going? Right? He is using a big corkscrew and driving it in my belly so he can rip the center. He can cork the center of my chest, and I don't really like that. So I think that that's something we have to clarify. Then strengthening the heroic bond. And again, this is one where like I think and I don't think this is going to be the only time that I'm conflicting with the philosophies of this adventure. The adventure is written to be this old school, you're motivated to go because that's where the money is and that's where the adventure goes, and things are very deadly. And, it has a touch of the antagonist DM philosophy wired into its writing, and that's not my style. And I think I'm going to conflict with that. And one of the ways that I'm going to conflict with that is in this idea of making sure that there is motivation for them to go. And one of those conflicts could be, are they the heroes that the Weird Weaver believes are the only ones who could potentially be successful at solving this problem? I.e., that the plot is that you're saving the crossroads from twisted magic that's occurring down beneath Scarlet Citadel. You're rescuing an entity that has brought you back from the dead. That's a very heroic quest line. It's a very much like, you're the ones to do this. It is not I guess like here's two examples. It's Star Wars on one side, and it's Firefly on the other side. In Star Wars, Luke is the guy. He's the son of the best Jedi that's ever lived, who also happens to be a villain, spoiler. And he's the one that can use the Force to destroy to destroy the Death Star and save millions of lives and end the Empire. He's the one dude, right? He's the hero who's going to do this. He's not just some random guy. But then you look at Firefly, and they're just some random people. They are family, they connect together, but they're not the only ones, and their job isn't saving the entire universe. Their job is to do odd jobs around the galaxy, around the solar system. So that, you can kind of do both. But part of it is like, if you were going to do the latter half, if you were going to run an adventure, the latter half, and if I was going to run this adventure and they said, you know what, Scarlet Citadel seems like a terrible place, we're not going down there again, you'd want to have other adventures for them to go on. You wouldn't be like, okay, you're not the only ones to do it. But if I want to steer them towards going into Scarlet Citadel, going with the hero part of it, that like the Weird Weaver thinks you're the only ones who can really go down there and solve this problem. Nobody else has really gotten as far as you. They all have just gotten butchered. But you're in the place. I need your help to go do this. That's definitely focusing on the heroic aspect of it, which I think is different than the philosophy that the adventure holds. So am I going to struggle with that if I make that choice? I'm not sure, but I think that's where I'm going to lean towards, because that tends to be the kind of adventures that I want to run. Because I also think 5th edition is built that way. You look at all of the powers and all the capabilities that the characters get. They're very heroic characters. They're not struggling. Like once they get to 5th level, they're superheroes, right? They're doing crazy stuff. They're throwing fireballs around. They're charm personing. They're heroic, hypnotic patterning stuff. So they've got a lot. So I think that idea of, I think we're going to start with the pause for a minute, and then Timon is going to commune. You are the heroes I need to break my bonds and save the crossroads from the twisted magic of Scarlet Citadel. So we're reinforcing that quest. But then I think, so first scene, pause for a minute. And the question is, how do we want to handle leaving people behind? And then meeting with Timon at the monument of the Weird Weaver. Return to Scarlet Citadel. Do I want to have an event along the way? Maybe. Event along the way. Or do I not really? Do I want to keep things moving? I don't know. Put an event along the way, question mark. And then return to level 1 and meet. And now they're going to meet an important NPC in level 1. And she's the one that might be able, they know about her. Ushlux. And I think I have a picture of Ushlux. I do. So there's a picture of her. She hates the jailer. So the question that I have is, what does she know? And how does she act? I had a really great, it's so sad. I had a really great character archetype that I was going to use for her. And then I lost it. I can't remember who I had in mind, but I had somebody in mind. And I can't remember who it was. But she's pretty nonchalant about the characters. She doesn't think the characters are these superheroes. I don't know how to spell nonchalant. I can't spell. Hey, look, thank you, spell checker. And I think, so when we think about her, what's written in the book is that she despises the jailer. I guess she's mostly interested in hanging out up here, kind of understanding Karen and the domain of death. She venerates Karen in the domain of death. So she's not really a blood cultist. She's a death cultist. Ushlux. Venerate of, I don't know if venerate is in worshiper of Karen. Karen or Charon? Hard C or soft C? Perceives the river as a metaphor for the blood flowing through artery and connected to the dry lands because of proximity to the shrine. So all very interesting stuff here. A lot of detail in this hard C, long O, but it's spelled Chrun. So I don't know if it's a long O. She hates the jailer. She was happy to get rid of him. She argued with the jailer continually, but her magic kept her protected from the jailer. The jailer kind of feared her. And no particular animosity to the characters unless they give a reason to. What does she know? Ushlux is helping the characters doesn't mean she's had a change of heart. She explains that she's always wanted to explore them. So she tries to steer them into, she tries to steer them down to it. The question is, it's possible that given where she is, does she know, what does she know about the rest of Scarlet Citadel? And does she know the other mages, the other people that are here and what they're doing? And I think this would be a good way for her to say, like, here, you want to stop the dark magic that's going on below. Here are the people you want to stop. And she could give their names. And those include Kagoth Z is one. Do I not have a picture of Kagoth Z? I know there's one in here. So Kagoth Z is one of them. Daneska Maxilov is another. And what is Maxilov? Kagoth Z, undisputed man, agent of Gellert the Gruesome, right? I think he's a wizard. He's the time mage. Oh boy, right? The master of time. Daneska Maxilov is the master of oozes, I think. Right? I think she's the one that's doing a bunch of weird ooze stuff. Yeah. So she's the one that's doing, she's doing a bunch of stuff with oozes. She's got little bombs. Then we have, let's see, if we go to the other levels. So I don't think there's, on the Dwarven Barracks side, I don't think there's any individual boss. This is the one that's been taken over by Trollkin and Darrows, I think it is. Is it Trollkin and Darrows? I don't know if this is the one that has Darrows in it, but it's got Trollkin. Definitely got a bunch of Trollkin forces that are going around. But I think that's more like you have to get through here to get lower. I don't think there's a boss here that Gellert the Gruesome cares about. I'm trying to think of like who are Gellert the Gruesome's people. What's the stuff about the Pale Circle? The Tomb of Chancellor the Pale. Yeah, I don't know if that's one of the bosses. So you can always add these questions. I don't have to have like a boss in every level. And they can learn about like other commanders and stuff like that. The question is like, who are the main drivers of the villainy that's going on in Scarlet Citadel? Am I already on chapter 4? Did I go down to chapter 4? No, this is still, wow, big level. Undead and Trollkin. Lots of places down there. That'll be a fun level to explore. So the Bat Caverns, this is where I think it's two different Darrow things. This is definitely something you could play off like a good, not the good and bad and the ugly, but the Fistful of Dollars or a few dollars more, or Sanjuro and Yojimbo, working the two different Darrow groups off of one another. But I think there's no main boss on this level. Kamazats is a god. There's a devil in there, huh? Crystalline devils. Cool. Who's that? Immorta the Debased. So who is she? So Immorta the Debased, Disciple is another one. Man, my spelling sucks. There we go. And I just saw a picture of her, didn't I? I think she's like second in command. Yeah, she's Gellert's top disciple. She's kind of a doer. She sort of moves around different places. She looks cool. So we'll stick a picture of Immorta the Debased in there. And then there's Gellert. And Gellert wanders around on levels 5 and 6. And that's Gellert, right? So that gives us 4 villains that they can learn about and that they can hunt down. 2 of those are on level 2. And then 3 and 4 they have to get down. And 5 is where they would actually interact with these. And then 6 is where they actually deal with the final stuff. So is that enough? Is that enough of a motivation for them? Like they'll know that they have to stop this. They will also know, who's involved. Yeah, so lots of people in chat are saying like, well, what about there's other named villains, and there are. The question is, are those named villains responsible for the twisting of terrible stuff that's going on in Scarlet Citadel, or are they just like local lieutenants? Because these are the lists of the people that are actually actively screwing with the ley lines. They are, they're the ones kind of tearing apart the fabric. Probably not so much Daneska, but maybe, because she's got that big forge and stuff like that. But I don't think there's anybody on levels 3 and 4 that are doing that. But they have to get through levels 3 and 4 in order to get to 5. So I think that these are like the four true villains of Scarlet Citadel. And the Jailer was another one, although they defeated him already. And I think the other one is her, Ushlux. Like I think she wants to twist it into something terrible too, but she might not. I don't think that's going to come across. But they might end up fighting her. I think if we, I swear there was a picture of, well, I know there was of. Let's see, I kill my search window here. She's a wacky one. So we have, that's Daneska, and Daneska is probably the least dangerous of them. She just loves oozes. The time guy is really dangerous. So there's certainly other like villains that they're going to fight. There's other groups they have to deal with. That looks like a Shoggoth. Yeah, so that's Kaggoth Z, right? Warper of Time, Twister of Time. So is it safe to say, like a secret could be, and this can kind of get the quests in front of the characters, are 4 wizards. Are they wizards, sages? What are they? Sages and alchemists reside in the depths of Scarlet Citadel. Each of them twists the power flowing through the ruins in dangerous ways. Kaggoth. Why is Kaggoth Z not coming up? Whoops. Kaggoth Z operates. And what is level 2 called? Level 2 has a name. The Arcane Scriptorium. Obsessing about the magics of worlds lost long ago. Empires, right? Worlds of empires. Isn't Daneska? Oh, God, I suck with names. Yeah, Danask. Resides in the, and it's called the Alchemist's Furnace. Forging new horrors. Where's the other one? Oh, you know what? I bet I didn't mark her as an NPC. Immorta the Debased. Serves the master of Scarlet Citadel. And Gellert the Gruesome twists time and space itself to serve his selfish drive for power. He holds my bonds. He holds the bonds of the Weird Weaver and much more. So a trick here is I'm reading ahead in the adventure. One of the things about Gellert is that Gellert actually approaches the characters at a point, and he says like, "Hey, we're he like they meet him and talk to him." And I don't know like if they know he's a villain, aren't they? But it's like attack, like let's just stop him right now. So I'm gonna have to worry about it, but maybe that's a problem for later. So I think exposing these secrets I don't think are so bad. She acts as the voice and fist of Gellert on levels 4 and 5. Is she at 3? I think she's 3, 4, and 5, right? His experiments reside on level 6. So you're kind of, you're kind of exposing the structure of the Citadel, but in some cases, and it might be like, oh, that's so spoilery, like they're going to learn all about who's where and what's going on. But I think sometimes players just want to know what the structure is of what they're playing. And if you play your cards too close, they don't understand what they're really doing, right? They get lost by what, but if you say like, there are 6 levels to Scarlet Citadel, there are 4 bosses, plus others, that exist there, and here's where they are roughly, then that gives them, oh, okay, let's take care of these 4 guys, right? We know where we're going, we know what we're doing, and so I think that can work. I'm going to take a quick break. I will be back in just a couple minutes, and we will continue onwards. Marker. Be right back. I am back. So one of the things I'm a little worried about, and I have to consider when you put quests like this, when you show people the structure of what they're playing, and you put quests like this in front of them, the risk is that they focus on that and they ignore everything else. And there's so many other things going on in this place that you don't want to lose that opportunity for them to explore. So on top of these quests, you also want to say like other treasures and mysteries other treasures seek to be found, and other mysteries seek to be unraveled within the ancient halls. What do you want to say? Do not fear these other paths. You may have more than one destiny to discover here. So, all of these things I think are like all these secrets I'm bringing up. And normally we don't tie the secrets to any specific thing, but I have a feeling they're going to learn these things both from the Weird Weaver and also likely from Ushlux. And that's going to kind of drive them. So sometimes, and I'll just tell the players, like, by the way, there are other things to do here. You do not have to just focus exclusively on taking care of these 4 villains. There are other things that you can do here as well. Other things to explore. Other weapons to discover. Other weapons to discover and wield. What other? So let's see. That's 7 secrets. What other secrets can they learn? This is likely things that they're going to learn in level 1. Oh, of course, we have a few. I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna steal them from last week's game. There was a bunch of stuff about the Deadlands. The Deadlands? This is my current one. The Drylands. So they didn't learn any of this stuff. Oh, look at all these secrets. Man, all right. You know what? I'm going to grab all of them and move them in here. And then we're going to look at what we need. Western side of the crypt, that we need. Rife with undead, that we need. Drylands, yes. Evermaw, yes. Many believe Scarlet Citadel is dead or stagnant. They couldn't be more wrong. That's happening. It's pretty good. Closing the portal requires more than just traditional magic. Yeah, we want to move this to up so it's closer to that. Ushlux is blood codes of venerates Charon. We don't need that because they met Ushlux. They're going to learn more about that. Charon is the god of death, master of the river Styx and Leth, guardian of souls, watcher of the door, patron of sailor and grave diggers. Yes, look at us with our page numbers. Charon oversees the passage of souls at birth and death. I took that right from the book. Lux perceives the river as a metaphor for blood flowing through arteries. I took this right out of the book. The philosophy is heretical. Yep. Statue is created and placed here by elves. Yep. Another powerful wizard resides in the chambers. No, they kick out Sea Twister at a time. We don't need that anymore. Powerful wizard, but completely obsessed with acquiring knowledge of the elves. We could keep that in. Boy, we went from no secrets to like tons of secrets. So fantastic location-wise, we have where they're level 1 that they're going to discover. And I think she is going to talk to him about this stuff. And then I think that she is going to send him to those catacombs, which is like a terrible place to send them. And she's like, I just want to see what you do. And they can learn about the Drylands in there. I'm losing. So let's see. They did the Frog Shrine. The Shrine to Charon, 107, page 45. That is a location. And then we have the crypts, which is 113. Oh, I guess that was page 42. This is page 45. And if we look at the map in the lower, we got a map right down there. We can see that there is a stairwell that leads down. Oh yeah, so there's like a place that blows up here. It's that I grabbed a cup and drank it, and I thought it was tea and it was coffee. And I was like, that's not what I expected. It's good though. Room 110. Let's look at room 110 here for a second. Because I think some crazy stuff is supposed to happen there. Water torture chamber. Oh yeah, this is one where it turns into a mud mephit. If they explore that. I don't know if they're going to explore that. But that is the passageway down. And she probably knows about it. But I think she's going to say, go through that door and check out the shrine. They might lurk around in there a little bit. But they might also pass and go downstairs. So we'll see. And then they go down to level 2. And then we run level 2. And see what's going on down there. I have piles of NPCs. I'm just going to keep them in my... What is her name? Ushlux is there. Leveling kind of benchmark. They are, that's one thing I really need to pay attention to is leveling. Because when should they, I'm trying to figure out like the quests that I give them and the levels that they gain. When does that happen? And there is a table in here that describes it. So here's the expected level. Expected character level for the given level. So they're supposed to be 10th level by the Howling. So they should be getting levels pretty quickly. So they reached 3rd level defeating the jailer. So I think defeating both, do I want to slow it down, keep them at 3rd level for a while? And they, defeating the first 2 bosses, get them to 4th level. And then traversing, then they'll get other new quests that will take them to further levels. Or do I want to hold that back? I don't necessarily have to tell them that they're going to get a certain level at a certain quest. I think I can hang on to that, but I'll probably, I don't know. If you were a player, would you want to know that defeating the two, nullifying the work of the 2 wizards on the 2nd floor is what's going to get you to 4th level? Or that'll get you to 5th level, right? Because they're supposed to be 5th level by the time they hit the Dwarven Barracks. So they could get to 4th level defeating the next boss and 5th level defeating the one after that. And then they would be equivalent to the 5th level. I assume that the levels are the level that they should be when they get to that section. So by the time they're getting down to the 3rd level, the 4th, let's say that's 0, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So by the time they get to Dwarven Barracks, they should be 5th level. So I think tying a level to each of the bosses is pretty good. I think we'll do that. There's 4 bosses, that's 4 levels, and then they'll get other levels for doing other things as well. I think that would work. So the benchmark right now, they are 6 level 3 characters. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 divided by 4 is 4.5. So the deadly encounter benchmark is 5. And monsters, we'll just use we'll figure it out. It's in the book. I'm not going to worry about that right now. One thing I want to do for Fantastic Location is we were talking about a potential encounter along the road. So we're going to use, this is going to be available. So patrons can already get access to this. If you go to your Patreon page and you click on rewards, you click on the one rewards post, it's listed there. It's also, we talked about in Discord, but I'm going to be sending out a Patreon notice tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday? Tomorrow with this linked, and then 2 other big Patreon things too. New City of Arches stuff that's coming out, that is out. It's actually, oh no, is it in the book yet? I think it's in the book, but I got to fix some stuff. But that's coming out, and a preview of another product, another thing that I'm working on with a couple of partners, with Scott Gray and Teo Sabadia and I are working on a thing, and we are sending previews of that out. So that's all going to be on the Patreon. This is the Lazy DM generator. It is a way to generate all different kinds of stuff, and we're going to create a monument set in Midgard. We'll use deep magic just in case there's a spell. And we have an ancient temporal throne of Mavros, the city master of war. Oozy ruby skull of Hecate, the city bringer of magic. That's kind of cool. Astral defiled battlefield of Bako, the elven god of poetry. I kind of like the Hecate bringer of magic. Oozing ruby skull of Hecate, the city bringer of magic. So that is a location. Whoops, I lost it already. And then if you drop an encounter, I guess I should have started with that. Goblins are engaged in a ritual at an oozing glass barrow of Beset, the southern goddess of cats and hunters. That's kind of fun. Hellhounds are preparing an ambush at a shadowy, hallowed altar of Thos Hermes, the god of knowledge and learning. That could be fun. Dire wolves are in a battle with thugs at an eldritch dreamscape throne of the hunter. That's pretty cool too. Those are, I like those. That's fun. So the way the idea is you pick an encounter type. So you want to have like an event that's occurring at a monument. You click on the campaign setting. We picked a Midgard that sort of themes the location. You can deep magic as if they're burying an object or something like that. And we could even drop an item in there. So a Cyclopean ghoulish scroll of Valerish, the elven supreme archer. That's funny. That casts creeping ice. What does creeping ice do? It is a 2nd level spell. Covers 5-foot range. That's kind of fun. I like that. A ghoulish scroll. I don't know that Valerish, this elven supreme archer, is right, but we could pick another. We could pick another god, but we'll drop that in as an item. See, this one is better. Vardazane makes more sense for this. Cyclopean ghoulish scroll of Vardazane, the ghoul god of bottomless maw, because it's ghoulish. A weird ancient scroll. Titanic clockwork stone disc of Valish, the elven supreme archer. It's sort of like that has cobra fangs. What's cobra fangs? Target to grow snake-like fangs. 1st level transmutation. That's fun. That's a fun little object. I think I like the cobra fangs part. A shadowy goblinoid vial of the goat of the woods. This is better. Queen of Decadence. We're going to drop this in. What's Rain of Blades? Let's take a look at Rain of Blades. 5th level. 150 blades fill 150 square feet. 60. That's Gonzo. We're not doing that. But we'll do Cobra Fangs. Cobra Fangs is fun. That's fun. Do one more treasure. Fairy gnomish icon of Thoth Hermes that casts innocuous aspect. What does innocuous aspect do? Oh, that's fun. That looks cool. Sure. So we got some treasures. I've got like a fun little encounter on the way. I'm not going to worry about monsters. We'll figure that out as we go. And I think we're pretty well set. So I got piles of secrets to learn. I've got some framing of the campaign that I want to do with the characters to kind of start off with. And I think we are ready to go. So with that, we will end today's show. So I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me today. It has been always a great pleasure. If you enjoyed this show, consider subscribing to the Sly Flourish newsletter, where you get a weekly D&D related article sent right to your inbox, along with a free adventure generator PDF. You can support me directly on Patreon. You get access to that generator I was just showing. You also get access to all kinds of other stuff. People have been talking about what a fantastic deal it is. It really is a fantastic deal. You get lots and lots of stuff for not a lot of money. So check out the Sly Flourish Patreon. That's in the show notes below. And of course, you can pick up any of my books, including Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, the Lazy DM's Workbook, and the Lazy DM's Companion, all in beautiful print versions at the Sly Flourish bookstore. That is all. All of the links to that are in the show notes below. Thank you all very much. Have a great day, and get out there and play some D&D.